In this video, we'll be looking at diving deeper into the viewport settings and its gizmos. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to note is that we currently have the default cube here as well as the camera and the light or lamp over here, right? So we're going to start over here. So these are options that we've looked at before, and you can see that transform tool is here, set origin, and a number of the other things, right? But what I want to take your attention to is this gizmos over here, this buttons over here on the right. So the first thing that we're going to look at is selectability and visibility. So what this does is, as soon as you go over here and you select on the mesh, what then happens is whatever you highlight or whatever you select over here will then be invisible, or you won't be able to select it, as well as when you go over here and you select that, and that will be for a specific object, right? This will be for a specific object. Like, let's just say we want to select the camera, and you can see now the camera will not be selected. This is for individual objects. However, if we wanted, let's just go over here and select this one, and let's just shift D, and let's just move this over here. So as you can see now, I can select both, right? Then what happens is, if I do that, right, and then you can see that this is individually, you won't be able to select it. Okay, so let's just delete that, and that goes with whether it's curves, surfaces, metals, text, and you name it. Okay, so the next thing I want you to look at is over here, right? So the cool thing about this is, let's just say that at the moment I have this tool selected. I don't have the move tool selected, right? I have this tool selected, right? So if you wanted to see the move tool always showing, and then you definitely have to select this one over here, right? And that's as well as scale and rotate, right? So that will be showing all the time. So the next thing that I want you to look at is come over this side here. So viewport overlays. What viewport overlays does is, for example, you can hide everything and look at your object directly into it. As you can see, everything is hidden, right? So you can't see anything else besides the objects that you'll have, or the 3D scene that you have in your 3D viewport. So the next thing that I want you to show you is the grid, right? The grid is the grid that's moving over here, right? As well as the floor, and you can hide it like just like it. And then here you can set the scale, or the scale of your grid, as you can see, right? So what I'm gonna do is right click onto it and just reset it to make sure that it is normal. So remember earlier on I mentioned that there's 3 types of axis. It's the Z, the Y, and the X axis, right? So the red is for the X axis, the Y is for the green, and then the blue is for the Z. So over here, most of the time you'd see that this is not shown in the viewport because it just gives you a better view of everything. But as you can see, you can put it on if you need assistance, or if you are starting out, it might be something awesome to do. Okay, so the next thing that I want to show you is over here. You see this text over here that's telling us what object is selected. Okay, you can see currently that the cube is selected as shown over here, and then you can go over there and take that away if that is disruptive or somehow you don't like that. Another thing to note is the statistics. So earlier on I mentioned linked and duplicate objects, right? So as you can see currently, it says the objects is 1, right? 1 of 3 is selected. If I select everything, it's going to show you 3 of 3, right? The vertices will show there's 8 vertices over here currently, right? So if I duplicate this, right, let me just move this up here, you can now see that the vertices has increased, as well as the edges and the faces and triangles as well, based on what is written over there. Then another thing to look at is, I'm just going to put this off. Another thing to look at is the wireframe mode. You can currently see, I'm sure you must have seen this online, where you can see the wireframe, right? And then of course now you can then select the width of it and stuff like that, as well as the opacity of the line itself, if that's going to help you work better. Then we have the face orientation. So a normal face orientation looks something like this, right? Where it's blue, right? If it's not blue, then it means that there's something wrong and we need to fix it. For example, so let's take this as a human's skin, right? Your skin is whether you black, white, or whatever color you are, right? Your skin is a certain color. So as soon as, for example, let me just do this and go over to mesh, and we have normals and we flip it. As soon as it does show this, because sometimes what happens is in edit mode you would have this problem over here, right? So you go over here and you select face orientation, right? So if this is showing, for example, in different colors over here, then you know something is wrong, and that is like having your skin turned upside down or inside out, in other words, right? So what you need to do is to make sure that all the colors are the same, right? And you would just have to flip that again. Okay, so let's just go over here, and then we're gonna go over here. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is, for example, let's just go over here and subdivide this. Right, let's just subdivide it again. Okay, perfect. So let's go to vertex select. So let's just say, for example, you wanted to select these four faces over here, right? Let's just go into face one. Let's say you wanted to select this four faces over here, but now you wanted to select this four faces over here as well. You would either have to orbit around and select it over there, or what you can do is just go over here, select this option, and now if you do select, you can then see it's much easier to select it, right? All that you have to do is go over here and just drag it, and there we go, right? Depending on what exactly it is that you want to select. Okay, so that is the transparent X-ray vision type of way. Okay, so the next thing that we have over here is the wireframe mode. So this will put whatever objects we have in the scene. For example, let's just duplicate this, and you can see all the objects would be in wireframe mode. And then the next thing that we do have over here is the solid view. So the solid view is just a simple look of what your objects look like, right, without it having materials and so forth, right? So the next thing that we do have is the material tab, right? So as soon as you click on the material tab, you will then see, of course, now that there's different materials. For example, at the moment it's white, so let's just go over here to the material tab. As you can see, it looks similar, so you would know where it is. So if you scroll your mouse over it, it will show you then, or your cursor over it, it will show you then this is the materials tab. And let's just say that you wanted to do this to be around about purple. Okay, and as you can see, it's now giving you the exact same color that you want it to be. Okay, and then we have the render view. So okay, here we have the render view. So the render view is more or less what your scene will look like as soon as it's rendered out. It's not 100% exact, however it does give you an idea of what it will look like. Okay, perfect. So the next thing that we want to do is go back to solid view, because there's some options that I want to show you. So next to this four different options over here, we have this drop down. So over here we have a studio. So what this can be used for is just different idea or color ideas of what object you can work with. And then we have matte. So matte cap is something that you might have seen where people use these type of things for like ZBrush and stuff like that. Okay, and then we have different ones depending on what project you're working on, which will be best suited for you. Like for example, if you go over here to this more reflective side, this would normally be used on like maybe like cars or industry, like industrial like kind of things, so, and then you can just select that over there. Then over here you see it says color. So color is based on object. So for example, let's just say Shift D. I'm gonna just put this over there, and now you can see that of course now it is object, right? And so if we had to add in another object, for example, right, you can see that it's showing. Okay, let me just get this right. Okay, so and then we have single, and then it will be showing single, and then of course we have random. So random will be based on, like for example, if I duplicate this again, or if like I add in an object, okay, let us circle, let's add in another object, let's go with something like this, and you can see that they are not exactly the same color, however it looks like it's the same color. Okay, just keep that in mind. Okay, so let me just get rid of these ones as well. Okay, perfect. Okay, you can play around with most of these things and just see what it looks like. However, we have x-ray, right? X-ray will give you an idea of what the object is looking like behind it. Okay, it's kind of similar to this, however it works in studio mode. Okay, then we have the shadow. So for example, let's just the shadow will literally be a shadow as it is set. Okay, like for example, let's just say we have this over here, and then we have shadow selected. We can just increase that, and you can see the shadow is now there in studio mode. Okay, something like that. Okay, and then let's just delete this again. So the other thing to look out is cavity and stuff like that, and depth of field, which is some stuff that we'll be learning later on in the course. So cavity would be just based on giving you these type of, as you can see. Okay, let me just deselect it so you can have a better idea. So as you look at the edges, look at the edges of this object, and you'll see that as soon as I select cavity, you'll then now see it increases, and you can use these options to make it more visible, or something like that. And then of course, now let's see, I think I've covered most of the stuff. However, we will be working on most of these other options later on in the course.